I've spent a lot of time talking about the importance of good clinical experiences and how it's very important to take away good experiences from them, how to take a lesson away from all of them and use that to fuel you. One thing that I haven't discussed though is the dark side of medicine, the reality of medicine. This is another reason why clinical experiences are very important and why the stories you get from that experience are so important. On the outside, before we really enter medicine, and I had the same mindset too, trust me, I had the same mindset. It's very easy to see the positive side of medicine. You think, oh great, I like to help people, I'm gonna help people get better, great. And yes, it's a good thing, but the reality is, it's a cruel world out there. So many people have gone through so much. On the news, when you typically hear about healthcare, let's say for example you hear about COVID-19, right? COVID-19, what do you typically hear about? You often hear about how the vaccines were advanced through their trials, and you often heard about how many deaths there were, how many cases there were in the US. We only see the numbers side of things. If we do hear a case about how someone was affected by COVID, it's a rare story. It's not up that often. It's not reported on that often. We only see the numbers. And after seeing the numbers for so long, it becomes so normalized to us. And this is the problem. We don't stop to think about how these people are being affected. We may hear about it on a conceptual level, but are we really thinking about the day-to-day lives for these people? How this virus is impacting them? How the healthcare system is being overrun by this disease and by many other limitations? Are we really stopping to think about that? I remember one day, I was working a shift at my old job as a medical assistant. I was on the front line directly testing people for COVID-19. The Omicron surge especially was a stressful time for all of us. I'm sure you remember hearing about that variant on the news and how many cases there were, especially during the winter. I was talking to the other medical assistants one day at work. We were all talking about, dang, we had to get up so early, we're all so tired. And I understood why they felt that way, 100%. We've all been through a lot. We're all trying to get up early and make a difference in these people's lives. So, when we saw the long line of patients, we knew we were in for a long day. But that's all it seemed to be at that moment. It just seemed to be another day where we take some medical information, we swab some patients, we run some tests, we send out the results to them. But this is again because the effect that this pandemic was having on people had become normalized by society as a whole. Hearing these patients' stories and interacting with them, seeing how the pandemic has affected their lives so tremendously, it made me feel so sorry for them. I remember on this day, just consistently hearing multiple stories from people about how they were unable to go see their loved ones for the very last time because of the pandemic. They were unable to attend their funerals. If you had seen the look on their faces, if you had heard the sorrow in their voices, you would have felt so sorry for them. You would have been so sorry that this is the situation the world is in. You would have been so upset that this has become the new norm. But here we are today. We're in a better place than we used to be, thankfully, but the pandemic has still affected people in multiple ways, especially when it comes to mental health. The healthcare system today is trying to recover from the effects that the pandemic had on it, but we still have lots of cases of physician burnout. We have lots of cases of people coming into the hospital and not feeling heard by their healthcare professionals. We have many instances where the flaws that existed before in our healthcare system are still there. Healthcare disparities are still largely rampant in this healthcare system, and nothing is being done about it. This is a problem. After hearing all of these stories, especially from underserved populations, how is this not a problem? Why is this the norm? I'm sure you can hear the fire that I feel in my voice. Like, this is why I kept showing up to work all the time, even though I hated waking up early. This is why I continued to work with these patients and continued to hear their stories. Because we were in such an uncertain time, and in many ways, we were their only source of hope. We were the ones that could allow them to safely re-enter their lives. We were the ones that allowed them to rebuild social connections when isolation had become the norm. This is the power that taking good stories and having good experiences can have on you. Do not take your clinical experiences for granted. Use the stories that you have learned from them. Listen to these stories and let them fuel you to take action. There is always room for improvement, especially in the current healthcare system we have today. We've all heard about the flaws that exist today, right? Like healthcare disparities, there's not a lot of resources in certain areas, that kind of thing. Use your experiences from who you work with to fuel you to fix that. Because again, we may hear about these issues on a theoretical basis, but again, the theoretical basis does not tell us how these people's lives are being affected. The stories will. And I must preface this. Do not just take these stories for the sake of, oh, okay, this will be good for writing. Like, don't do that. A person's life is being changed by the pandemic. They're being affected by healthcare consistently. We have a crucial duty to help every single person we can. With great power comes great responsibility. That is why you must use these stories to fuel you to bring change, to become the best doctor that you can be, to make every single difference that you can in a patient's life. Your ability to use these stories and to have empathy for other people is why, again, I believe a good mindset is the best kind of medicine there is. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you again in the next video.